What's going on? Welcome back, everybody. I'm here in some absolute fire from Born Offside. Legends never die. Shout out Born Offsides with the little Sopranos jersey here. And we're going to talk about MLS news on a Saturday afternoon because what in the hell else am I doing with my life if I'm not talking to people, texting sources, taking calls, and just kind of ripping through transfer market at potential players that teams are signing? What else would I do with my life on a Saturday? Who knows? We got a potential new Galaxy signing, a definite new Galaxy signing that I've already talked about a little bit, and we got a U.S. national team player returning to the Colorado Rapids as they continue to cook this winter. Let's start with the Galaxy here. First of all, I guess we'll just go with the easier, well-known news. The deal for Gabriel Peck that I've talked about here on this channel and on The Athletic and on Twitter and everywhere else, that one is done. Everything's all agreed, being finalized. It's just paperwork. There would have to be a catastrophic error to go for this deal to go wrong. So they have their first DP. It will be a club record deal. Gabriel Peck is a player who is goal dangerous from the wing, as I've kind of said. That's what they want. They want somebody who, and as I bring up his stats right now, like he was 91st percentile in non-penalty expected goals, and 82nd percentile in expected non-penalty goals itself per 90 minutes in Brazil last year. That's what they need. They have the creators. They have Ricky Puig. They have Diego Fagundes as players who want to get on the ball and play. But even with just Ricky Puig, just put runners around him and dudes who score goals. And that's clearly the idea for the Galaxy this winter. So again, club record deal around $10.5 million. Vasco keeps his sell-on percentage. And again, that one's done, barring something catastrophic. With their other DP spot, I was assuming that they were going to go with the center forward. But again, it wasn't as much positional need as they just need more dudes who are goal dangerous. And the other name that they've landed on, who I think would be a better player just based on his numbers and everything, Joseph Paintsil. He plays for Genk in the Belgian league. He's a Ghanaian international. In 2022-23, he had 17 goals and 14 assists in 36 appearances. And just look at these stats. Look at all of these bright green. 99th percentile in goals, expected goals, 97th percentile in assists, 99th in non-expected goals plus expected assists, like shot creating actions, progressive passes received at 99th percentile. That's important because that's the player that needs to be alongside Ricky Puig. He's going to find you if you make the space. Like, I'm going to steal the quote from Robert Taylor from Inter Miami, who he benefited a whole lot from playing with Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets. He kind of knew how to, the runs to make, the timing and everything else. And again, it's not that hard when you're playing with two of the best kind of passers ever. But he was like, yeah, do you know how I knew what to do? When they get the ball, run. Just run, and they'll find you. So if the Galaxy has runners around Ricky Puig, this is going to be just about the best attack in the league. If Dejan Joveljic is league average even up top, if he's finishing chances at a league average rate, this is going to be one of the best attacks in the league if they do sign Joseph Paintsil. So again, the details here per sources are that he has a release clause around $8.5 million, which is pretty reasonable given these numbers. So that's why there's a lot of interest in him in Europe. But that release clause expires in early next week. So I'm expecting a resolution one way or the other over the next few days because obviously Genk would ask for a whole lot more at the end of January rather than this $8.5 million release clause. What I was told is that the initial talks between the Galaxy and his representatives were not close. He asked for an astronomical amount of money in terms of salary, and he has options, so I don't blame him or his agents. But I am told that this is still active. It's described to me as nothing is imminent in terms of an agreement, but they're still talking. So it's not, again, reporting on Ramon Sosa, which I did a few weeks ago here, and it was like Sayeras came back with a counteroffer that was out of control. Galaxy said, okay, fair enough, and then the talk stopped. For this one, they're still kind of at the table. We'll see what happens over the next, 48 hours or however it goes. But again, this would be a really big signing for the LA Galaxy if they were able to get it done. And this offseason, they've been really strong, I think. Miki Yamane, the Japanese international right back, I think he's going to go down as one of the underrated signings of the offseason because a lot of us haven't watched him play very much. But if you look at everything he does, he's won everything in Japan. He's a Japan international. He's just kind of the profile that a club needs at right back. And if he can settle well, and that's not always been the case for some players, kind of particularly coming from Asia, just because of the infrastructure that hasn't been great around here. Like you think about Red Bull Salzburg. I was told that they had that their list of translators was about as long as their coaching staff because they believed obviously so much in their international scouting, and then they wanted to do everything to help the players settle. So Miki Yamane, we'll see kind of how he settles, but I've got big hopes for him. They've done a lot of other good work, and if they hit on these DP spots, they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. For more breaking news, Colorado Rapids, they are still cooking. The Rapids are finalizing a deal to sign U.S. national team left back Sam Vines from Royal Antwerp. Sam Vines, as you may remember, broke through with the Colorado Rapids, and they transferred him to Royal Antwerp in the summer of 21. He's had his moments there. He was playing kind of regularly when he first got there, and then a couple injuries happened, and playing time has been very tough to come by. He's played like a little bit over 200 minutes so far this year. But look, like this is a great signing for the Rapids if they can get it done. It's similar to the Zach Steffen deal. Like they weren't looking for a goalkeeper coming into the offseason. They weren't looking for a left back. Like they traded Andrew Gutman and got back Miguel Navarro. He's had his flaws. I've been critical of him, but the Rapids believe in him, and they were ready for him to be their starter. But they've been keeping tabs on Sam Vines for the last 3 or 4 windows, and they've always maintained if Sam Vines comes back to MLS, we want it to be back home in Colorado. It's the same thing they did. They got Cole Bassett back. Now they're bringing in Georgi Mihailovic and Zach Steffen. They've already named Chris Armas head coach, free agent Omir Fernandez, and they still have one more need that they're going to fill. It's going to be a number 6. This is the best offseason so far of the winter. I'm planning on talking a little bit about this at length in the near future, so I'm not going to try to step on all the thoughts, but just kind of like the macro view is they're adding at least 4 new starters. When that number 6 comes in, if they get that right, this is going to be a really strong starting 11 on paper. I know I'm one of the last people with real estate on Kevin Cabral Island. I don't care. I still believe in it this year. Check in with me halfway through the season and maybe my opinion will change, but I'm not selling my stock yet on Kevin Cabral Island, as crazy as that may be. We'll see. It's put up or shut up time for him this year with the team around him, but I really like everything the Rapids have done this offseason. And Sam Vines would just be another really good starter at a position. And all of a sudden you look around and you go with the team that was bottom of the Western Conference last year to like, oh man, like this starting 11, they have a lot of guys who would be regular starters, key players on other teams, which just wasn't the case last year. So we'll see how Chris Armas puts it all together. But between Sam Vines now coming back, deals being finalized, all the agreements are reached, he's just going to travel to do the final details and complete the move in the coming days. So it's just kind of procedural at this point. But yeah, all intents and purposes, he's on his way back to Colorado, and I think that's super exciting for the club. Other small ones, Joshua Windass, Sheffield Wednesday center forward in the championship. He's a player who has some interest and has had some talks with MLS teams this winter. That's not the first time. I believe last summer, last winter, there was some interest. His wife is from Chicago. He's open and interested in trying, a new journey. He almost went to Talleres in Argentina a couple years ago. He's a center forward, just turned 30. I think he'd fit well in this league. We'll see if MLS clubs will be able to get a deal over the line for him or if he'll stay in Europe, whether it's England or elsewhere. There are clubs that are looking into him with his contract expiring this summer, so he's got options, and we'll see how that happens, but that's kind of a name to look at. Some other little things like preseason opens next week. For a lot of teams, I think that we're going to see some more urgency in some of these signings. Again, we're still 6 weeks away from the regular season starting, but when coaches get the team in for preseason and see how it's looking on the field, that's when they start banging on general managers' doors and say, okay, like all the negotiations and trying to get a good deal is all fair and well, but we need better players right now. So expect some urgency to creep up. And again, the news, it'll never stop and it's going to keep going. And please keep tuning in. Hopefully I'll have some more good stuff for you in the future.